Hi everyone, Lash Ebikes here, just doing another video on putting together a e-bike battery pack. This stage of the process, just making up, hot gluing 6 cells in parallel using our hot glue gun. So I'll show you how I do that. So here I've got the 6 cells and here's my hot glue gun. I've taken off the metal clip around the front here so it doesn't touch any of the negative or positive ends of the cells, which is a bit more important later on when they're all joined together. You can easily create shorts, so top tip, get rid of any metal that's on the front there, and then it's just a matter of ensuring they're all nice and tight. And just putting a nice run of hot glue down in the gap. So here's each parallel group after hot gluing them. I actually had to hot glue these twice because the first time around was not strong enough, but I've used a different brand glue on the second time around, which is much stronger, which is Sullivan's glue. So that's much stronger. The other stuff that I had here, this Crafter's Choice, that was crap and didn't hold at all. So might have to experiment with some hot glue to find the best stuff that's the strongest. So now we've made our parallel packs, we're going to start and weld them up and put them together in series. So I've got the Arduino spot welder, the version 2 spot welder up here. We can have a look at that later, but it's our little spot welder. We've got our negative terminal, negative probe and positive probe here. Wearing my fancy safety gloves. These are actually skiing ones, but anyway. And back down here we've got our parallel group that we're going to put on the nickel strip for the negative end of the battery pack. And down below here at my feet I've got a little foot switch to do the pulse. I think that's not too bad. I might just turn it down just a wee bit. So back to 2. We'll see how that goes. I think that's probably I think that's welding just nicely. So it's pretty quick once you get going. Yep, so that's not too bad. Let's see if we can get a closer look there. So I've just put this Kafton tape around. It's like a heat resistant tape, so that might help prevent any rubbing between the two series. Probably more of a precaution than anything, so we can make that the negative end. And we'll bring that one in next like this. So I've got these, I think they're 25mm wide nickel strip, and I've cut these to length so they fit nicely over the 2 parallel groups like this. The beauty of making a nice, simple, straightforward pack is that you can do it fairly quickly because all the pieces are the same size and you don't have to think too hard. It's just a series pattern straight through. Otherwise sometimes you have to rotate blocks and basically go off a plan to get it right. So this is nice and easy. So let's put this on here and put our gloves back on, and we'll see if we can weld it to the top here. So a little trick here is to use a little stick or something just to press nice in, so you can press in nice and tight and just make sure that the cells are nice and close together. So it's pretty much the same sort of thing, just keeping going and doing it for the rest of them. So I'm just basically going to build this battery one group at a time and take it from there. So here we go, we've spot welded all the parallel groups together to make a 14 series battery. So there's a bit of a look there at one of the strips that we've welded on. As you can see, we've got the BMS stuck on the end here. It comes pre-installed with 2 wires hanging out of it. So I've already gone ahead and attached some plugs, so I'll show you those in a minute. I finished off putting all the parallel groups together, welding the strips across the top. And I've also joined some wires on the negative and positive ends, so I'll show you those in just a minute as well. Okay, so here's a bit of a close-up of the pack that we've got here, and you can see here we've got the negative terminal on the end. So I've stripped off about 3 or 4 centimeters there and soldered that to a 7mm piece of nickel strip, and then I've actually spot welded that onto the existing parallel group. So I'm sure if you can see that there. Just zoom in a little bit, might go in focus. So you can see there I've spot welded that under the thing. Now this is a fairly low draw pack, so it's probably a little bit overkill, but that's what I like to do. So I've done the same thing on the end up the back with the positive end. This one actually, the positive end actually has 2 wires coming off. In this case, one goes to the charger. So I've got that taped up so it doesn't touch on anything, and I've basically got the ends of the battery pack terminal here. So one of the negative ones goes to the BMS, and then this other blue one comes out and that'll go to the controller. And we may actually end up cutting this and putting in a fuse, a house circuit breaker as well, just for a bit of extra safety. Now I wanted to show you this. I'm not sure if the camera will focus on it that well, but you might be able to just see in here how I've joined 2 wires together. So basically I've actually just painted it in this special liquid electrical tape that I wanted to show you. But basically I just sort of hold the 2 wires together, and I've got a thin copper wire. It's about 1mm wide. I'll show you that in just a minute, and I'll just cut a section of that off and just wrap it round and bind the 2 wires together. And then once that's done, I add a bit of soldering on the top, but it is quite difficult to solder, so you do have to get quite a bit of heat in there, and then that goes to the plug. So that'll form the battery terminal ends. Now I actually forgot to put a what do you call these, heat shrink over this one. I sort of had one on here, but it didn't really go over here, so I use this liquid electrical tape, and you can just pour that over there, and that sort of probably need about 2 coats here just to sort of block it off. But I'll wrap it up with tape anyway, but that'll help. If you forget to do a heat shrink, you can do something like that. Now I use these little pieces of craft foam. They all come in funky colours, and I'll just use these to put over the pack just to add a little bit of cushioning. Okay, so I've taken the green tape off of here, and I've just spun the battery around, which is hot glued the other side. I'm sort of running out of hot glue, so I'm just going to, oh no, I've got another piece over there I think, so it's all good, but I'm basically just giving him a little bit of a blob just in each little vertical row, just to help with that little bit of extra strength. Okay, so we have done a fair bit on this battery already. Basically just done all the hot gluing, all the welding that's needed. Got the BMS on top here. We've got our negative and positive connections all soldered on and then spot welded on. So we do that to prevent transferring a lot of heat over to the battery. So I've just been putting the balance leads on the ends of the parallel cells here. So I'm just doing one half at a time. So you just solder those quickly onto the ends of the group. And they attach into this plug here. So they follow a pattern that's fairly straightforward. So I've done one half, so I skip a wire for this one side. I've wrapped it up with some protection material, which is this Cora flute stuff, which looks like this here. Not sure if you can see it there. It's basically like cardboard but made out of plastic. So underneath the Cora flute I've got some small padded foam that I think we saw in the last video. So basically just cut out sections for the front, back, sides and ends. Got the cables coming out here, connectors on and a bit of a sheath for it. So now it's time to put this on here. So we'll just measure it out, cut it and heat it up and see how it goes. Here's a picture of the battery with its shrink wrap on. It didn't come out the best, but not too bad. And here's a picture of the battery inside the frame with the foam surrounding, holding it in place. And here's a little video of the first test ride. Bloody kids.